Hey, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or PF2. First, Highhelm, we're going to go over new heritages. Then Ancestry Feats, backgrounds, skill feats, and a new spell. I do like the spell, though. It's cool. And then after all that, we're going to do my personal favorite, the animal companions. It's really for completely personal reasons. It's not like they're amazing. I just like them. I want to say first, though, that there are a lot of new, very fun magic items in this book, like a chest set that hides secret messages inside for spies to find, and a collection of weapons made by a crazy lich dwarf given immortality via mechanical devices he's detailed in the book. And they're all based around destruction, fire, and ash, like the Scarlet Queen. If you shoot and... It's a gun. If you shoot with it and destroy an unattended, non-magical item of light, bulk, or less, it just turns to ash. You can also shoot a magical item to cast Dispel Magic on it. Who doesn't love that? Or there's also the weapon, the Black King. It's a blunderbuss that increases its spread area, and also it lets you shoot out a blast of draining flame in a 60-foot cone for 5d6 each of fire and negative damage, and knocks creatures in the area back or even prone if they crit fail. How great is that? And there's a coin. That's right, there's a coin that lets you summon it and a bunch of coins around it to you. So you just slip it to somebody. You can even like reverse pickpocket, put it in somebody's pocket. Or just, let it go into circulated currency and just buy stuff with it. And then it's in somebody's pocket and it has a range of miles. Yeah, there's some cool, fun, weird, messed up stuff in this book. So the heritage first. Forge Blessed Dwarf. You're blessed by your patron's family deity, which is a freaking great for role-playing opportunities, especially if you're a new player. You have an instant relationship that you can work with throughout the life of your character. Like them or hate them, they're interested in you, and they're watching. They might even talk to you or send you dreams. Anyway, you choose a deity from the Dwarven Pantheon, and you can cast the first level spell they grant clerics once per week as an innate divine spell. Yeah, it's not as often as clerics can do, but so what? It's just a heritage. It's cool. It's handy. I'm totally taking this and expanding it to work with any of the deities from any Ancestry's Pantheon. Every heritage should have this ability. It's awesome! Alright, so Ancestry Feats. First level feat, Clan Lore. Dwarf. Obviously, it's a book of dwarves. Everything's going to be dwarf. Of course, your GM, or you if you're the GM, can just make decisions otherwise. Your identity as a member of your clan is as central to your sense of self as your dwarven ancestry. You gain the trained proficiency rank in the 2 skills of your clan. If you would automatically become trained in one of those skills from your background or class, for example, you instead become trained in the skill of your choice, like usual. You also become trained in the listed lore for your clan. I love that they gave the Dwarven clans clear identities here, with 2 free skill trainings and 1 lore skill training based on your clan. I like anything that makes a character's theme make more sense and easier to grasp, whether you're a new player or a returning one, or continuing. So this is really useful, and when you play a dwarf and encounter another Dwarven clan, you'll know that they know your specialization right away and vice versa, like you're each part of a different trade guild, and you know immediately what you each stand for in general. I like the nuance to it. Also, first level, Ancestry Feat, Rivethun Disciple. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because it looks like I should pronounce it that way. Sounds cool anyway. Rivethun, we'll go with that. It's uncommon, dwarf, obviously. The Rivethun are a group of dwarven shamans who are able to perceive that their spiritual form is separate from their physical form. So they have a greater degree of control over this connection, lending to enhancing their body and their spiritual awareness as well. So you've studied with these people, whether you're a dwarf or not. It's up to you and your GM. If you have the conditions clumsy, drained, or enfeebled, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to crafting, deception, intimidation, and medicine. You also get the same +1 bonus to athletics, stealth, and thievery, as long as you have the immobilized, slowed, or stupefied conditions. So the implication here is that when one aspect of your abilities are limited, you shift your spiritual awareness more fully to the other abilities. Like if you're stupefied, you take a penalty to charisma checks, but you're better at pushing people around. It's just like you can focus the concentration of your abilities somewhere else, like if somebody goes blind and they get better hearing. You can have a lot of fun with this and role-playing the changes in your personality it makes. Like when you get drunk, you get better at pushing people around and wrestling with your athletic skill. I kind of think that should just happen with alcohol, but this is a great way to reflect that, especially if you want to play that kind of character. The drunk dwarf gets in bar brawls, or not necessarily dwarf, whoever. 9th level Ancestry Feat, Rivethun Spiritual Attunement. Once per day, you spend an action concentrating to gain an imprecise spirit sense out to 60 feet for 1 minute. You can sense the presence of spirits like in the Soul Sight feat. This is available anyway to bards or sorcerers at level 8 if they want to take it. But you can be any class and take this as a dwarf. Again, it's only for a minute, but that's probably all you need if you end up needing spirit sense at all. You're always suspicious of something if you're going to use spirit sense. Granted, it can't be a major part of your character's roleplay anymore, like a bard just walking around constantly talking to spirits, which would be really fun to roleplay. I have to make that build. Anyway, it's awesome. Backgrounds. We're starting with Fightbreaker. You have a knack for picking up on simmering tensions and calming frayed nerves. You rely on your intuition to discern how and when violence is imminent, and on your skills, diplomatic and otherwise, to de-escalate tense situations. You might choose the adventuring life to tackle new and unfamiliar conflicts, or be trying to escape retaliation from those who thrive on violence and resent your ability to keep the peace. Choose 2 ability boosts. 1 must be to Wisdom and Charisma, and 1 is a free ability boost. You're trained in the Diplomacy skill and the Lore skill for the city or settlement you live in. When you became a Fightbreaker, you gain the Group Impression skill feat. Yes, finally, a de-escalation specialist. Like, you can work with hostage situations and stuff. Plus, this background works so well with no cause for alarm. Perfectly themed. I see a bard who takes their role of party morale officer very seriously having this background, just to be able to make a lot of changes to people's emotions in very helpful ways. Next background, Highborn Snoop. Alright, so I'm going to give a little preface first. The rich area of Highhelm is called King's Crown, and it tends to be really busy in trade, very politically active, and there are a lot of underhanded dealings there, like spies and saboteurs and bribery and manipulation of all kinds, sort of like Game of Thrones. Maybe less violent. So anyway, Highborn Snoop is the name of the background. It says, the machinations and scheming of King's Crown have trained you to be on the lookout for those who seem out of place. You've learned to spot when the person pouring your tea has sword calluses, or when the person wearing a guard's uniform doesn't. Choose 2 ability boosts. 1 must be Dexterity or Intelligence, and the other is a free boost. You're trained in the Society skill and the Guild Lore skill. You gain the Courtly Graces skill feat. This could also be called Secret Agent. So you can kind of tell more quickly than others what kind of person someone is, and this would be really applicable for a spy or even a sheriff or other law enforcer or a bounty hunter. This could work into a lot of different backgrounds, or backstories. It is a background. The next background I find a very interesting one because of how it's structured. So I'm going to read the intro to you. Union Representative. You might have fought for fairer ore distribution for the Metalmakers Union, higher chef's pay in the Provisioners Union, or better mercenary contracts for the Union of Axe and Coin. Whatever the case, you have experience in the high-stakes world of the negotiating table, experience that translates surprisingly well to adventuring. Choose 2 ability boosts. 1 must be Intelligence or Charisma, and the other is a free boost. You're trained in the Diplomacy skill and the Legal Lore skill. You gain the Contract Negotiator skill feat. And I'll explain why I like this so much. This all works well for character history, but it's also nice to have diplomacy and a skill feat that comes with a lore skill that it then enhances. So the skill feat, Contract Negotiator, lets you use legal lore in place of diplomacy to make an impression or a request when negotiating deals or agreements, even if there's no legal framework around what you're doing. And it gives you bonuses as you increase in proficiency with diplomacy. This could be really handy for accepting quests for your group and just negotiating better pay. This could be used in a lot of different situations. It's a solid background because all of these bonuses it gives you, the skill lore, the skill feat, the skill, lore, and skill feat all help each other. It's just a very well-made structure for a background. I applaud whoever came up with that one. Next skill feat, first level, Vicious Critique. Prerequisites, you have to be trained in crafting and intimidation. There has to be a trigger, which is you're about to attempt to coerce a merchant or crafter. So I'm going to explain that. I'm going to read the intro to you. You have an eye for detail and a mouth for pointing out flaws, which makes it all the easier to convince the merchants and crafters of King's Heart to help you. Just a different layer of Highhelm. You quickly analyze the triggering creature's wares in hopes of finding something useful in your coercion and attempt a crafting check. A critical success on this crafting check means you have plenty of flaws to work with, and you can leave your target shocked with your analysis. If you roll a success on your intimidation check, you get a critical success instead. If you roll a critical failure, you get a failure instead. Success is as critical success, but you only gain the benefits when rolling a success on your intimidation check. There's failure and obviously critical failure as well. So now, from what I've seen, this means that while you would normally either use diplomacy to haggle, whether you're using the bargain hunter skill feat or your GM uses their judgment or a house ruling, diplomacy seems to make sense to most people. But you can also use intimidation instead in order to coerce them, which seems more mechanically accurate. Now, normally, if you have this skill feat, you can roll a crafting check before rolling the intimidation check. And if you get a critical success on the crafting check, then your intimidation check counts as a critical success if you get a success on the intimidation check. And if you get a critical failure on the intimidation check, it counts as a failure. So this will be really fun to roleplay, and I'm glad that it gives an opportunity that didn't exist before. Aside from roleplay, sure, it can save you some money, but the end result is still up to the GM. This just gives the player some security and the GM another tool to make the game work more smoothly. You know, it surprises me time and again how much Paizo works to make things easier for a GM. Like when a new book comes out, you get plot points, regional information, suggested quest hooks, and even NPCs that are easy to just shove into any game. It's very nice. Second level skill feat, Cooperative Crafting. You have to be an expert in crafting to take this. You've learned to make the most of working with others on your crafting projects, a must when working with the various guilds of Highhelm. If an ally is attempting to aid you with your crafting check, you ignore the -1 circumstance penalty if they roll a critical failure. If an ally also has the cooperative crafting feat, you can choose to pool your resources and work on the same item together. You can only work with one ally in this way. Both of you attempt a crafting check on the same item. If you both succeed, reduce the minimum time to craft the item by 1 day. And when determining the level of the item you and your ally can craft, you use the higher of your level or your ally's level +1. If you attempt to craft an item that's a higher level than either of you and one of you fails, both checks become critical failures instead. It's great that you can reduce a craft time to 3 days minimum instead of the normal minimum of 4 days. It also allows you to make an item that's a little higher level. Just don't fail the check and lose your materials. I like this format for a skill feat too. It makes working as a group better, but also just more nuanced. Anyway, it's not always going to be necessary, but it's cool for people who want to work on stuff together. Like alchemists or inventors in a group, if you have a group theme like that, or even just 2 people that do so. They can have a very rich in-game mechanical experience using this along with their roleplay. Another level 2 skill feat, what's that up your sleeve? Prerequisites, you have to be an expert in gambling lore. The text it says is, whether as a dealer or player, you've learned to spot cheaters. When another creature attempts to conceal an object from you, use your gambling lore DC if it's higher than your perception DC to determine whether they succeed. When you search a creature for a concealed object, you can use gambling lore in place of perception. This is awesome because it gives people who have crappy perception a better ability to find and expose criminals, or, to be a criminal. This can be useful in a lot of builds, even if you don't want to actually gamble. You can still take the lore for this purpose. Having the ability to replace a perception check with a skill check should never be ignored or taken for granted. This could be awesome. This next one is a level 7 skill feat. Master of Apprentice, which, by the way, seems like a horrible name. It confused the crap out of me the first several times I read it. It basically means you're good at working with people under you. Cool. So like Master of Apprenticeship? Or Master of Apprentices? Or Apprenticeship Masterness? I don't know. Anyway, you have to have Master in Crafting Performance or a lore skill. It says, teaching is a difficult art form, but you've gotten a pretty good handle on it. When you craft or earn income during downtime, you can also attempt to aid another creature doing the same with the same skill if they have a lower proficiency bonus than you. If you succeed, they can use the better result between your check and their own check. This has uses? But I can't really see why you would take this skill feat instead of another. Unless maybe, like, again, you have a group theme, and the master of the group can help out other people. I think this would be nice if a GM just threw this in as an NPC has this ability, so they can help the players that maybe might not be as experienced or as knowledgeable in the system to feel more successful at what they're doing, to just do a better job. All right, so you can help another person earn a little more income, but that's not the reason you would use this normally. But you would use it to help ensure that your friend has a better chance of making a check, which can be actually quite helpful, but still, it's really niche. I'll probably never take this. So the new spell, Forge. Level 1 spell. Now, before I read this, I want to make it clear that this is technically a level 1 spell, not a cantrip. It refers to it later as a cantrip, and I think it might be a typo. It's in the traditions of Arcane and Primal. Takes 2 action to cast, somatic, verbal, range 30 feet. 1 creature or unattended metal object are the targets. Saving throw Fortitude. Developed before the introduction of the Iron Lagoon, this cantrip for superheating metal has also found valuable combat use. See? Cantrip. You superheat the target, dealing 3d6 fire damage. If the target is a metal object, reduce its hardness by an amount equal to the damage dealt until the end of your next turn. It's so much damage. It's not a cantrip, obviously. It is meant as a first level spell. So on a critical success, the target's unaffected. Success, the target takes half damage. Failure, the target takes full damage. Critical failure, the target takes double damage. And if it's a metal creature, it gains weakness 2 to physical damage until the end of your next turn. You can heighten it for an extra 2d6 damage for every level you heighten it. And the weakness also increases on a critical fail. This is great. It helps you break open a chest or break down a door, or even destroy a vehicle or castle wall. I like this a lot. Okay, maybe castle door. Walls aren't usually made of metal, but I've made one that is, and people hated it. Anyway, it's great against a metal creature because it helps the rest of your team do damage to it, which is sometimes really hard against golems. Okay, animal companions. The Ogdenar is a strong mule. Its skill is athletics, which is often useful for an animal companion. It has low light vision and scent, speed 25 feet, works as a mount, and the damn thing gives you an item that you have on the creature, the mule, by shifting its weight. It's just like, oh, I know he usually needs his water skin when we stop, so here you go! It's just fun. The advanced maneuver is weighted kick, which automatically shoves a target 5 feet on a hit or 10 feet on a critical attack roll. It takes 2 actions to do. Next animal companion is Draft Lizard. As you can probably tell by the name of it, it's also a mount. It's got both a piercing and a bludgeoning attack, which is nice to have because the tail does bludgeoning. Athletics is its skill, has dark vision, scent, speed 25 feet, and it works as a mount. Its support benefit is that it gives you a +1 circumstance bonus on your next attack roll to strike a foe within the lizard's reach. I know, there's not a lot of special things. The next ability is kind of cool though. Advanced maneuver, tail swipe. It's a 2-action activity. It makes a tail strike against up to 2 adjacent foes. Each attack is at its full attack bonus, then the penalty of already taking 2 attacks would apply to any further attacks that round. I like this lizard. It's kind of very useful in combat. 2 attacks from an animal companion at full attack bonus. Okay, next is my favorite. The goat. It's not because of any game mechanic reason, I just like goats. Yeah, I'll be making an awakened goat as soon as we can make awakened animals. Anyway, so the goat has acrobatics, scent, and speed of 35 feet, and a climb speed of 15 feet. It functions as a mount. Its support benefit is that it boosts you up a wall as if you had succeeded at a climb action. So it helps you climb. The advanced maneuver is knock aside. It takes an action after it successfully hits a target to push them back 5 feet or 10 feet if the attack was a critical hit. This is a little nicer than the mule's ability, the Ogdenar, because you only spend the extra action if you already know that it hit. So it has more maneuverability in combat, which can sometimes save your life or help out an ally. And I love that it has a climb speed. Just think about this for a minute. Mountain goats are great at balancing on very little surface. So it usually looks like they're just like walking or hopping up a cliff face. And technically you could use this on a tree. Yeah, just let that image sink in. Okay, so all of this stuff is an addition in the Highhelm book to really fun magic items and a lot of interesting lore about how this city is constructed, special NPCs that live here, even a new beer that changes you into a random animal when you drink it, including a shark, which could really suck. There's new monsters, Dwarven Pantheon details, and a new material made of lead and adamantine that resists magic, and if you have a shield made of it, you can block magical damage with your shield block. There's just lots of fun stuff here for the GM and the players too. So pick it up. I have an affiliate link in the description that will give me a small kickback if you use it for your purchase. And I'm working on getting an interview from a Paizo staff member to talk about this book and other plans for the future, for the region of this book going into the future. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, or share to tell the algorithm gods that there's useful stuff here. Thank you to our lovely Patreon people. I release unique videos on Patreon, I do giveaways, and our top level patrons get one-on-one conversations with me, and I make them whatever they want once a month. Link below to check it out, Patreon. And thank all of you watching this. You make this channel what it is, and I appreciate you. See you next time.